Chosen one, lock your attention on what I'm about to say right now. That thought you've been carrying, the one telling you that some things are just better left unsaid, silence it. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason and one reason only. He knows that what you are about to hear will change the entire trajectory of your life. It all ends today. The silence, the confusion, the half-truths you've been living inside. But here is what you need to understand before I say another word. It is not ending because the timing finally got convenient. It is ending because of what you have already walked through to get here. Think back to that moment this week when the truth was sitting right there on the edge of your tongue and you swallowed it. When you almost said it. When you almost let it out. You held it in because you were afraid of what would happen if you did. You didn't know it then, but that restraint was not cowardice. That was God holding the moment in suspension, waiting for the right altar to receive what you've been carrying. You didn't delay your breakthrough. You protected it. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment scheduled before the foundations of the earth, and you are standing at the exact threshold you were always meant to reach. Stay until the very last second of this message. In the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the full verdict on what has been hidden from you, about you, and for you. I am going to walk you through the moment you unknowingly activated the very thing you have been praying for. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this season of silence shut forever. Do not click away. Your future self is on the other side of what I am about to tell you, and if you leave before the end, you leave before the door opens. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not just been still, it has been thick. Heavy in a way that is hard to explain to someone who has not felt it. Like something enormous is pressing in from all directions and the pressure has nowhere to go. Maybe you found yourself sitting alone this week, maybe late at night, the house quiet, everyone else asleep, and you felt the weight of everything you have never said sitting on your chest like a stone. Not just one thing, everything. The conversations you never finished. The people you never confronted, the dreams you stopped speaking out loud because speaking them made the disappointment heavier when they did not come. Or maybe you woke up at 3 in the morning this week and lay there in the dark, and for a moment you thought, what if I've been wrong about all of it? What if the silence was not wisdom? What if it was just fear wearing the costume of patience? You feel suspended, not moving forward, not going back. Just hovering in a space between who you were and who you were promised you would become. And in that suspension, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. Listen carefully to the thoughts that have been loudest this week. He is telling you that the reason nothing has broken open yet is because of what you failed to do. He is replaying a specific moment in your mind, maybe the moment you went quiet when you should have spoken, or maybe the moment you spoke when you should have waited. He is telling you that you misread the signal, that you moved too soon or held on too long, that the window has already closed because of your timing, your fear, your silence, your noise. The accuser is telling you that you have disqualified yourself from the very thing God promised you, that the blessing has been rerouted to someone more obedient, more patient, more ready. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." All things, not the things you handled perfectly, not just the moments of discipline and restraint and wisdom. All things. That includes the moment you went silent. That includes the moment you spoke out of turn. That includes the fear that looked like failure and the hesitation that looked like doubt. All of it has been working together. All of it has been threading itself into something that only God can see from where he stands. You are not disqualified. You are assembled. The heaviness you feel is not the weight of consequence. It is the weight of completion. Something is finishing, not ending, finishing. There is a difference, and you need to feel that difference in your body right now. What is ending is the version of you that carried this in silence. What is arriving is the version of you who is finally ready to hear everything and stand in it without flinching. You thought the silence was your greatest weakness. You thought not knowing the full story was your greatest liability. But let me reframe your reality right now. The silence was not abandonment. It was preparation. And today, the preparation ends. Because it is finally time to tell you everything. Here is what has been hidden, not from you by accident, not from you because you were overlooked or forgotten or deemed unworthy of the full truth. Hidden from you by design, hidden because there are revelations that cannot be received until the soul has been prepared to hold them without breaking. And everything you have walked through, every silence, every suspension, every 3 a.m. moment where the ceiling felt closer than heaven, was not punishment. It was preparation for exactly this. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, a tremor of recognition, a deep resonance that vibrates through the very core of your being, then you may be ready to receive the chosen one's blueprint. This is not merely a book, it is a sacred guide, a divinely downloaded revelation that unveils the 8 divine patterns intricately woven behind your unique calling, the profound depths of your suffering, and the glorious unfolding of your destiny. It is a roadmap for the soul journey you are on. To ensure this truth permeates every fiber of your spirit, this blueprint also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb its powerful insights, its comforting wisdom, and its activating anointing during your most sacred moments, during prayer, in times of restful contemplation, or in those quiet, intimate moments shared solely with God. And for those amongst you who feel the undeniable burning impulse to speak His truth, to be a conduit for divine revelation in a world desperate for light, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook specifically crafted for those carrying a prophetic assignment, designed to equip and empower you for the profound work ahead. The link to this transformative resource is waiting for you in the first pinned comment. But remember, this is an invitation for a limited time, a window of opportunity not to be missed. Now let's go all the way in, plunging into the depths of understanding that will illuminate your path forward. The first thing you need to understand, and this is the pivotal truth that fundamentally rewrites, reinterprets, and redeems everything that came before it, shifting the very bedrock of your past perceptions, is that you have been measuring your readiness by the wrong standard entirely. For so long, perhaps unknowingly, you have been engaging in a silent dialogue with the divine, constantly asking God, in the quiet chambers of your heart and in fervent pleas, "Am I ready yet? Is it time?" And because the doors you fervently knocked upon had not swung open, because the breakthroughs you longed for remained elusive, you, in your human understanding, assumed the answer was a definitive no. But let me reveal the divine metric. God was never measuring your readiness by your performance. He was measuring it by your formation. And beloved, those are two entirely distinct, profoundly different paradigms, separated by a chasm of spiritual depth. Performance, with its outward-facing gaze, says, "I have labored enough, I have exerted sufficient effort, I have been disciplined enough in my spiritual practices, I have prayed long enough with unwavering dedication, I have waited long enough with admirable patience. Now surely it is time to release me into my blessing, my calling, my destiny." It is a plea based on accumulation and endurance. But formation says something far more dangerous to the ego, far more costly in terms of self-will, and ultimately far more accurate in the eyes of heaven. Formation says, "I have been broken in the right places, precisely where brittleness resided, precisely where false strength had taken root, so that true, spirit-infused resilience could emerge. I have been emptied where I was brimming full of the wrong things, full of my own ambition, my own timeline, my own understanding, my own noisy desires, so that there would be sacred space for divine filling. I have been silent long enough in the inner sanctuary of my soul, disciplined enough in quietude to finally cease confusing the clamor of my own voice, my own opinions, my own fears, for the still, small voice of His eternal truth. That, beloved, is what the Almighty was truly looking for. Not a polished, superficially perfect, externally impressive version of you, but a formed one. A vessel reshaped by divine hands, purified by spiritual fire, and made pliable through surrendered trust. Consider for a moment the narrative of David, the shepherd king, a story etched into the very fabric of divine purpose. Before he ever donned the heavy crown of Israel, before his feet ever graced the polished floors of a palace, before he ever commanded even a single soldier, he sat in profound solitude. He was often alone, perched on windswept hillsides, with nothing but the resonant strings of his harp and a docile flock of sheep that, in their innocent ignorance, could not possibly appreciate the monarchical destiny stirring within the heart of their young guardian. He was not, you see, in preparation for a kingdom while he was comfortable, surrounded by accolades and affirmation. No, he was being prepared for an empire while he was utterly invisible to the world, veiled in obscurity. And crucially, that invisibility was not his prison. It was not a divine oversight or a punishment. It was, in fact, his sacred incubation chamber. For what was being divinely formed and forged within David during those long, silent years of solitude, those seasons of profound anonymity and deep communion, was something that no earthly throne room, no royal court, no human academy could ever manufacture. It was an intimacy with God so profound, so resilient, so deeply rooted, that it would sustain him through every brutal betrayal, every bloody battle, every moment when the very fabric of everything he was promised seemed to unravel, seemed to be moving in precisely the wrong, opposite direction. It was an intimacy that became his unshakable anchor in the wildest storms of kingship. You, my dear friend, have been that David on that secluded hillside, and you have found yourself in those stretching, quiet seasons, wondering, why is no one watching? Why does my life feel so unseen, so unacknowledged? But here is the profound truth, the luminous revelation that changes the entire landscape of your understanding. God was watching. From the celestial heights, his gaze was fixed upon you. And what he saw in those unseen moments, in your faithfulness amidst the mundane, in your cries in the wilderness, in your perseverance through the unnoticed trials, was exactly what he needed to see. It was precisely the evidence of a formed, resilient, and deeply devoted heart that he required before he could trust you, before he could release you, before he could fully entrust you with what comes next in your magnificent story. But here is where this truth goes even deeper, where the spiritual current becomes swifter, and I implore you to stay with me, to hold fast to this thread of revelation, because this is precisely where many, many people, in their haste or their weariness, lose the profound significance of what God has truly been doing. The season of silence, the very period you may have found so bewildering, so agonizing, so devoid of progress, did not merely prepare you for your long-awaited breakthrough. Far more profoundly, it protected you from a version of your breakthrough that, had it arrived prematurely, would have utterly destroyed you. Think back. There was a specific door, a particular opportunity, a longed-for relationship, a dream you held so tightly that could have opened 2 years ago, maybe even 3. And you know the one I am talking about. You can feel its phantom echo in your spirit even now, a ghost of a possibility. And with every fiber of your being, you prayed for that door to open. You fasted with earnest desperation for that door. You cried tears of profound longing, of aching expectation over that very door. And yet, it did not open. And at that time, in the raw vulnerability of your unmet desire, you interpreted that closed door as divine rejection. You saw it as a sign of unworthiness, a refusal from heaven itself. But what if that closed door was not divine rejection at all? What if it was, in its profound mercy, divine protection? What if the version of you that existed when you were knocking so desperately on that door was simply not yet equipped, not yet formed, not yet fortified to survive, much less thrive, amidst the immense weight and unforeseen challenges that lay on the other side of it? Because here is what heaven sees, a panoramic view that you, from your limited earthly vantage point, Kati, and not yet fully comprehend. Every divine promise, every potent blessing, every significant calling carries with it an inherent, profound weight. It is not a light, fleeting thing, and if the person destined to receive that promise, to walk in that blessing, to fulfill that calling, has not been sufficiently developed, matured, strengthened and expanded in their inner being to carry that weight, then the promise does not elevate them, it does not launch them into new heights. Tragically, it crushes them, it overwhelms them, it shatters the very vessel that was meant to contain it. God, in his infinite wisdom and boundless love, was not withholding the blessing out of malice or oversight. No, he was patiently, meticulously and lovingly building the vessel within you. He was fortifying your inner architecture, expanding your capacity, deepening your roots, so that when the deluge of blessing came, you would not merely receive it, but you would be able to hold it, steward it, and flourish within it without shattering under its immense and glorious pressure. He was building you to contain the ocean, not just a teacup. And what's coming next will likely surprise you. It always does, because God's ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts deeper than our thoughts. Because the profound and sacred thing that was actually being meticulously built, forged, and refined during your silence was not solely your character, though that too was profoundly shaped. No, it was something far more strategic, far more discerning, and far more critical for the battles ahead. It was your discernment. And discernment, beloved, is the spiritual gift that the enemy fears, truly fears, more than almost anything else in the arsenal of the redeemed. Why? Because a person endowed with true, spirit-led discernment cannot be easily deceived by a counterfeit blessing, no matter how shiny or appealing it may seem. They cannot be seduced or diverted by an open door that, despite its inviting appearance, God never truly opened for them. They cannot be manipulated or led astray by a voice that, at first listen, sounds like profound wisdom, or appears to offer genuine guidance, but in reality carries the subtle, insidious signature of the enemy. Your silence, that very season of profound quietude, that very period you have perhaps been grieving as lost time, as barren ground, was in fact the most potent, most intensive classroom where the sacred gift of discernment was being downloaded, instilled, and activated into your very spirit. Every single time you found yourself sitting with profound uncertainty, wrestling with ambiguity, and yet chose not to move prematurely, chose not to react impulsively, but instead chose to wait patiently, to linger in stillness until God unequivocally released you, you were practicing something truly rare and profoundly powerful. You were practicing the discipline of divine restraint. And let me tell you, that discipline, forged in the crucible of your unseen battles, is now one of your most potent, most formidable weapons in the spiritual landscape of your life. It is the compass that will guide you through every fog of confusion. This brings us to something that most people, even seasoned believers, miss entirely. A subtle yet monumental distinction, and I truly want you to hear this truth slowly, allowing its weight and clarity to settle deep within your soul. There is a profound, yet often misunderstood difference between the voice of God Himself and the voice of your unique, specific assignment. Most sincere believers, through diligent practice and heartfelt seeking, learn how to recognize the voice of God in the sacred quietude, in the solitude of the prayer closet, in those precious moments of profound stillness and intimate communion. They recognize His whisper in Scripture, His peace that transcends understanding, His gentle guidance. But far fewer have truly learned to recognize with unshakable certainty the distinct voice of their assignment. That deep, settled, unwavering knowing, a profound conviction that resonates in the very center of your spirit, a sacred echo that declares, "This is why I am here. This is what I was meticulously built and divinely purposed to do. This is the thing I cannot, will not, walk away from, no matter how many times the external circumstances seem to argue vehemently against it, no matter how many obstacles rise up in its path." That voice, the voice of your assignment, does not shout with aggressive demands. It does not manipulate through fear or guilt. It does not produce anxiety or confusion, or the desperate, grasping, frantic energy of someone terrified of missing their fleeting moment. No, the voice of assignment, when it is truly from heaven, produces an unshakable, profound clarity. Even when everything around it in the external world is shrouded in uncertainty, in chaos, in doubt, the voice of assignment cuts through it all, producing an undeniable, quiet, and absolutely resolute clarity in the deepest, most authentic part of who you are. It is the signature of your divine purpose written on your very soul. And you, my friend, have heard that voice. Perhaps it has been a whisper, a persistent tug, a quiet knowing that refuses to be silenced entirely. Maybe you have been too afraid to fully trust it, to lean into its profound certainty, because you have been burned before, deeply scarred by previous experiences where voices that sounded like divine direction or true purpose turned out to be false, misleading, or self-generated. But the discernment, that precious, potent discernment that was being meticulously built, downloaded, and refined in the crucible of your silence, can now, with newfound clarity and spiritual precision, tell the difference. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next is the absolute pivotal part that breaks the cycle, the very key to unlocking your future. Here is what has actually been happening, subtly and often imperceptibly, beneath the surface of everything you have been walking through. All the trials, all the delays, all the quiet nights. There is a pattern, an insidious, deeply ingrained pattern that has sought to hold you captive, and I want to name it now, to call it out into the light, so that it loses its power over you forever. It is the pattern of premature surrender. This is not, let me be crystal clear, surrender to God. True surrender to God is always liberating, always expansive. No, this is surrender to the narrative. The moment things get quiet around you, the instant the external confirmations stop flowing, the very second the breakthrough you desperately long for seems inexplicably delayed, you have, in those vulnerable moments, been surrendering to an insidious interpretation, a deceptive narrative that whispers, "The story is over. The dream has died." Maybe it was never truly from God in the first place. And every single time that premature surrender happened, every single time you consciously or unconsciously agreed with that self-defeating interpretation, you handed something immensely precious and powerful over to the enemy that was never, ever his to hold. You handed over your declaration, And without your declaration, without the spoken, unwavering word of faith aligned with God's promise, the spiritual atmosphere around your life, around your circumstances, could not shift, could not align, could not move into its intended reality. Because here is the foundational principle that much of the church world, in its earnestness, has been taught backwards, a truth often inverted in our human understanding. Faith does not wait for visible evidence to appear before it speaks. No, true, radical faith speaks first. It declares, it proclaims, and then the evidence follows, manifesting in the natural realm. It is not the other way around. Look at the glorious tapestry of Hebrews 11, that majestic hall of faith. It is not a record of people who first saw the manifestation and then believed. On the contrary, it is a glorious record of people who believed with such unshakable conviction, with such audacious trust, that they then moved, they acted, they spoke, often into complete, dizzying uncertainty, with nothing tangible to anchor them but the potent, living Word of God and the unquenchable fire of conviction burning fiercely inside them. Noah, for instance, did not commence the monumental task of building the ark after. The torrential rains had already begun to fall and the world was deluged. No, he began its construction when the sky was still clear, impossibly blue, and the people around him, in their cynical disbelief, thought he had utterly lost his mind, calling him a madman. And that, beloved one, is exactly the profound and pivotal season you are in right now. The sky around your life, to everyone else's natural eye, may still look perfectly clear, perfectly ordinary. They may not possess the spiritual sight to see what you see, the prophetic ear to hear what you hear, the awakened heart to feel what you feel. They may question why you are still believing, still holding on to that audacious vision, still declaring with unwavering certainty. But understand this deeply. You are not building for what is immediately visible in the natural realm right now. You are building with spiritual materials and divine blueprints for what God has already shown you, what He has already whispered, what He has already established in the spirit realm. And the monumental, miraculous construction happening in that unseen realm, the spiritual foundations being laid, the divine momentum gathering, is more profoundly real, more tangibly impactful than anything your natural eye can presently see or your human mind can fully grasp. It is the reality that precedes manifestation. But let me challenge you with something now, because this is often the most uncomfortable truth, the part no one truly wants to hear, yet it is essential for your complete liberation. The premature surrender I just meticulously described, that deeply ingrained habit of agreeing with the deceptive narrative that whispers, the story is over, the dream is dead, it did not, my friend, originate from nowhere. It was not an accidental occurrence. It was learned, and the primary, most painful place it was learned was in your earliest, most formative experiences with profound disappointment. There was a moment, perhaps so long ago, that you no longer remember it with crystal clarity, a foundational moment in your journey when you believed for something, for someone, for a particular outcome, with the entirety of your pure, unblemished heart, pouring all your hope and expectation into it. And it did not happen. It failed. It shattered. And the searing pain of that unmet expectation, that profound disappointment, was so acute, so overwhelming, so deeply etched into your nascent spirit, that somewhere in the hidden depths of your being, in a moment of self-preservation, you made a vow. A silent vow. The kind of sacred yet self-limiting promise that does not get consciously written down or articulated out loud, but instead becomes the operating system of your soul, a silent protocol governing your future interactions with hope. And that vow, born from pain, said, I will not let myself fully believe again. Because if I do not fully believe, if I only offer partial hope, I cannot be fully disappointed, cannot be fully shattered by its failure. And tragically, for years, that vow has been cunningly posing as wisdom, a disguised thief robbing you of your spiritual inheritance. It has been calling itself emotional maturity, a sophisticated way of navigating the world without being naive. It has been calling itself guarding your heart, a responsible act of self-protection. It has been calling itself being realistic, grounded, sensible, pragmatic. But beneath its clever disguises, it has been subtly, persistently, and profoundly stealing from you. It has been thinning your declarations, making them weak, hesitant, lacking the robust conviction that moves mountains. It has been putting an invisible ceiling on your faith, preventing your audacious belief from reaching the very place where God was patiently, expectantly waiting to meet it, to amplify it, to breathe life into it. And here is the divine confrontation, the inescapable paradox. You cannot fully step into the glorious, expansive, breathtaking future God has meticulously prepared for you, while simultaneously attempting to protect yourself from the potential pain, the perceived risk, the possibility of disappointment if it doesn't come in your timing or your way. Those two postures, my beloved, cannot coexist. They are mutually exclusive. One of them, decisively and completely, has to go. You must choose. And yet, beneath even that profound layer, there is one more, an even deeper strata of truth that must be unearthed for true, lasting freedom. And I need you right now to be profoundly honest with yourself, to look unflinchingly into the mirror of your soul, because this, truly, is where the most radical and liberating transformation begins. The lie, the insidious deception that has held you captive, is not just that you cannot believe or that you are unworthy of the promise. No, the lie, the deepest, oldest, most cunning and most embedded lie that has taken root in the fertile ground of your insecurities, is that you are too much for the promise. Not unworthy of it, no, but too much for it. Too complicated in your internal landscape, too layered in your experiences and emotions, too broken in too many places, fractured beyond what even God could perfectly reassemble. You have whispered to yourself in the quiet despair of your heart that by the time God painstakingly assembled all of your seemingly disparate, often contradictory pieces, the resulting masterpiece was something too irregular, too unconventional, too difficult to explain, too complex for the kind of straightforward, clean blessing He bestows upon simpler, cleaner, more easily understood people. You have told yourself a compelling yet utterly false story about your inherent complexity being your greatest liability, your biggest hurdle to divine favor. But I want you to hear this truth, reverberating in the core of your being, and I want it to land somewhere permanent, to anchor itself unshakably inside you, rewriting every false narrative. God does not do simple. Consider the magnificent tapestry of creation itself. It is not simple. It is an explosion of intricate design, countless ecosystems, and unfathomable complexity. The human body, in its miraculous precision and interconnected systems, is not simple. It is a universe in miniature. The profound way a single tiny seed, seemingly insignificant, becomes a majestic, towering forest, providing life and shelter for generations, is not simple. It is an orchestrated miracle. The journey of a humble, overlooked boy from Bethlehem, a mere shepherd, who becomes the man after God's own heart, enduring betrayals and triumphs, is not simple. It is a saga of divine formation. The radical transformation of a woman named Rahab, a woman whose scandalous history and societal standing should have, by every single human standard of qualification and worthiness, utterly disqualified her. yet she becomes a pivotal sacred thread in the very lineage of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, is not simple. It is a testament to God's profound grace and unconventional methods. God has never once in the entire history